Okay, yay! Everybody in my Courageous Confidence group, this is for you. I have started a show called Women Doing Business Differently. And that's not just doing a different sort of business, it's how we do our work. We women have a lot that we bring to the table, and the table has been men for a long time. And so we've heard a lot over the years. You're too emotional, don't be, this isn't personal. Well, if it's part of being alive, it's personal. It is personal. And so I'm interviewing fascinating women like Sarah Gregg here, who've said, I'm not so keen about being inside the box. I'm going to do things differently. So we're recording this. We are recording this, the show, which will then go up onto YouTube. This part will not be there, but if you're watching live, please feel free to comment. I'll check you later because I can't do both the interview and check those at the same time. Just not capable of that. So here we go. You ready, Sarah?
Oh, I'm very ready.
You are so ready. Oh my God, so awesome. Okay, where am I? Here I am. Hi, welcome back to Women Doing Business Differently. I'm your host, Lori Kirstein. This is the place where we talk with women who are bringing themselves to the table, bringing themselves to their work, redefining leadership, redefining how they do things. And I've even had one man come on the show because he's a little stealth missile that is bringing emotion to the people at the top. Emotion, oh no, how could we feel? That's terrible. That's not a corporate value. Well, it is becoming a corporate value and high time too. So today I have with me a woman that I just met a little while ago, and it was like, soul sister. She's an amazing person. She is probably my polar opposite in seeming externals. Here I am, the mad creative, and Sarah is an environmental engineer. Like, she's got her feet solidly on the ground. She's an environmental engineer. She's a coach. She helps companies maintain compliance with EPA and OSHA regulations. And she also is now marching into fixing the culture of a company. As you and I know, culture is everything. And it has to come from something real, or we smell a rat, and then it's not a real culture change. Right, Sarah?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to really recommend that after you watch this, if you are wanting consulting services or coaching around the entire environmental and cultural shifts, then she's your girl. And we'll make sure that you have that information so you can actually talk to her. I'm now going to switch gears here just a little bit. There we go. I'm all set. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I totally agree. Soul sister, from the moment I saw you on a Zoom call, I was like, I have to know you.
I know. And it's so great that you are an environmental engineer, and in your background is the galaxy.
Oh, yeah. Like, and I can't do like the fake background. So it's like a real,
I can teach you how to do that. I can teach you the fake
For some
background.
reason, computers and the speeds, I'm like, I'll just take it because I like it anyway. But thank you.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So Sarah, we were talking earlier about the face of women in business. And we were talking about, there's a dual thing going on here, a dual necessity. One is for us women to step up, and the other is for, in my language anyway, for men to help to stand up for us and with us. But you brought a slightly different take on it. You were talking about men need to stand up for their authenticity. So could you tell those who were not in our conversation what you were saying? It was brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm an engineer, so I'm like the token female in almost every company. And, I think when I realized I needed to own my own authenticity, I kind of scared everyone a little bit, because in the beginning I was, wearing the black suit and, having the hair and, dressing exactly the way I was supposed to. And it felt so icky. Like I was oozing, like, just, I couldn't even be myself and meet people. And so it really started with the purple hair. And then, I was getting promoted because I was just being myself, and it was really great. But like my
Wow.
office, I had a hot pink chair, right? And so it was just like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm not colorful and vibrant and I want to have fun. And that doesn't make me any less qualified. And so what I was
Right.
learning was there were men around, this one particular gentleman I worked with, he was a father of three. His wife was a stay-at-home mom. And he always felt so much pressure for leaving early. And when I say leave early, it meant like he wasn't working 60 hours that week. And it
Oh,
was like he wasn't being supportive of being a father. And it blew my mind because, I understand that women have a lot of pressure, and we really do feel like we're always trying to be, put in all this extra time and energy. And I agree, we don't have a seat at the table yet, but we're not going to get
right.
anywhere unless those men also say, you know what? My own happiness is important. I don't want to just my whole life just be work. But the thing is, like, to plant those seeds, it's typically there's a lack of an emotional intelligence on that subject. And so they don't even
Yes.
know that they're miserable.
Well, neither do we actually. I mean, we do, but what we're not aware of is that there are exit doors from the jail.
Yes.
There really are.
Yes.
But was this person you're talking about, was he asking to leave early because he wanted to see his kids? Is that what you're
Yeah.
referring?
Well, and so it wasn't even like he'd ask. He would just kind of slip out the back door because it was after 5, and his son had a t-ball game or something, and he couldn't say that's where he was going. He'd be like, "Oh, I have a meeting to go to." I'm like, "It's after 5 o'clock. You only work 8 to 5." Like it was mind blowing to me that he felt like he had to hide the fact that he, was this dad that wanted to be involved in his kids' lives. And he was young. I mean, we're the same age. And I was really, really surprised that I guess I always assumed that the women were going to kind of get some kind of, pressures. But I didn't expect him to not feel like he could. And that was when I really realized that, like, the only way we can come together is we both say, no, this isn't right.
I have to interrupt you only because I seem not to be plugged in.
Plugged in where?
My
Oh, your
computer wants to
laptop?
die. I'll be right
Oh,
back.
no.
Where were we?
I don't know. I was rambling
Oh,
about,
it was about men. I know what I wanted to ask you.
yeah.
So here's what I want to ask you. I want to ask you, in your opinion, how does it help us if men become more emotionally attuned to that kind of need?
Yeah. Well, there's something very interesting that's happened during the pandemic is that everyone's lives have been disrupted, whether we want to, accept it or not. And for a large majority of folks, this whole concept of working from home, yes, it was really stressful, but all of a sudden, things started becoming very like, is this where I want to spend my time and energy? Is this worth it? Not having a commute, being able to, pop out and do some laundry and come back in, being able to cook the foods that you want, whatever that changes. Maybe it's seeing your spouse because all you ever did was not be around them.
Right.
I think that people are really going to struggle trying to bring people back to the office after COVID. I think some people want the social interaction. Like, I can agree. I'm a type A minus. I'm in recovery and I want to talk all the time and I love it. Right. But like, I really believe that I think that flex schedule of maybe a couple days in the office, maybe a couple days at home is what people are going to want. And they're understanding their needs and wants and values. And it's not a sex thing. It's not a man versus woman. It is simply a human thing. And
Yes.
women can't be the only ones screaming from the mountaintop. There's got to be enough men now. I mean, I actually gave a webinar about this probably in the fall, and it was just about like your own happiness and mental health.
Yeah.
And, the unexpected was, I would say a middle-aged man wrote me back like a couple months later and just said, Sarah, you made me realize I was miserable and that's not what I wanted my life to stand for. And I quit my job and I'm so thankful for you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, awesome. That's what I want people to see and know. And it's like, I'm not asking you to quit your job and go handmade crafts. Okay. I'm a professional, lots of professionals out there. Just like you said, the exit door can be to something that still is the same lifestyle that you want, Although I would question what your lifestyle, if you really want that or not, or if it's just keeping up with the Joneses. But, you don't have to, making a change doesn't mean you have to sacrifice everything else if you don't want to.
Do you think that there's a change towards genuine authenticity happening?
I think so. Although admittedly, I wasn't really sure what I was authentically. And I don't know if anyone else struggles with this, but
Of
probably
course,
about
everybody
7,
struggles.
yeah, right? I mean, so, but I always admired that person that was so sure of themselves. They're like, I know exactly who I am. And I would tell you about 7 years ago, I had no idea. And so I had this I would go to all those little, little talks and the webinars and the
Oh,
meetings.
sure.
And one of the most valuable things someone ever gave me was ask people on social media what they think of you. Use 3 words to describe you. And so I had people give all this feedback, and I was really surprised. At the end of the day, of course, I'm very analytical. So when a word was used more than one time, I made a word jumble, and the bigger the word, the more times it was used. Oh yeah, we're getting into it. And
I love it.
the one word that was the biggest was fun. And as soon as I saw that word, most people would be excited. I felt like I got kicked in the gut. Like,
Oh my gosh.
oh. And so that was interesting. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting response. Who doesn't want to be fun? And then I realized that it was because I think where I was in my career, that fun was not respected. It was seen as like the class clown or the goofball or something. And then
Right.
I realized, why aren't we having more fun at work? Like we literally spend more time with these people than our own family, right? And I was like, so
Mhm.
I started doing little fun things. Now, granted, being a woman, it kind of put me on like the party committee at work, the party planning committee. And I was like, I don't care. If that's where you want to put me, that's fine. But, just to like have some funs and jokes, and we would like hide things in people's office and like, not in a mean, cruel way, but in a fun way. Right. And it was
Yeah.
like, all of a sudden, that's when I started to be like, I'm not the only one here, And so there is a reason to do things differently, because I promise you're not the only one thinking, oh my God, this is so boring.
That is absolutely doing business differently.
Yeah.
I mean, internally and externally, the breakout that you had from like, oh, I'm supposed to be appropriate to I'm freaking miserable. I want to have some fun.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Thanks. Because, I was looking back on my career, and every time that I spoke up and just said something like, in a respectful way. So I would always say, hey, I'm just curious. That's like my new favorite thing. I'm curious. What if we did this? And like my first job out of school, I saved a client like $500,000 because they were battling against 2 different plans that didn't make any sense. And I was like, well, what if we just did this? And all of a sudden everyone's like, who's she? And I'm like, well, I just was listening to y'all, blah, 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 and I was like, this is a solution. And so I don't know, not being afraid to speak up, but also doing it in a non-threatening way. I mean, I don't know. It's taken a career long of doing that, but I really do think it's important, because if you're silent, and I don't care if it's a man or a woman, the introverts of the world that are sitting there thinking and processing, that is such a valuable input on any conversation. And I always feel like the one thing coaching always taught me was, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So why don't you make sure everyone's included and has their opinion? Because people who aren't like you might have the solution that you can't see, because you're so like full steam ahead pushing with your own idea.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what I'm bringing into businesses is listen below the power line, listen to your customers. I mean, actually talk, actually like receive and hear, like it's 2 different things, right? So I couldn't agree more. I'm interested to know what happened when you dyed your hair purple.
So it's been a couple of years now. And so you can imagine I work with a bunch of engineers, like clients as well. And so one of my favorite, he was down in Wooster, Ohio, which is a little more rural. And
Yeah.
he knew me before the purple. And so, I mean, the guy hired me on the spot, very respect. He's like, I like the way you're handling this. You're the only one who came to talk to us because I want to build relationships. I'm not just a transaction, right? And so he's probably been an engineer for 40 years. And we had a great conversation. And then I came down and he saw me and it was like this, whoa. Like, oh, and then I was like, yeah, kind of mixing it up a bit, huh? And he was like, yeah. And then just on to work. Like it wasn't like we needed to have a conversation, but it was one of my most favorite reactions. And maybe because he knew me before, it wasn't like it didn't change him. But I keep saying that when I started my own business, it had, grown out during the pandemic. And I was like, should I diet again? And then I thought, you know what, if someone isn't going to work with me because of the color of my hair, maybe that's not the kind of person I want to work with. So I was like, yes, put a mask on for 8 hours, do the hair, like, let's go. And now I may never go back. So there we are.
There you are. Oh my God. You were telling me about some other part of business you're doing that you're walking into now that you're doing very differently.
Yeah, I think I think it's that cultural change is what's happening. So, I went back to school for coaching a couple years ago because it wasn't like, are these companies having plans and trainings and giving people the right equipment to be safe, like their PPE. It's at the end of the day, there are pressures from production and there are emotional things going on and people are just getting hurt. They're bypassing safety options. They're not thinking about where they are. And so that was really was curious to me, right? Like, okay, that's something we don't normally talk about, right? Engineers aren't talk about, we're not taught to talk about our emotions. We're not taught to talk about the emotional impact.
Right.
And yet every decision we make is emotional. I mean,
every single one. Yeah.
Right. That's why I love marketing. I'm like, yes, Facebook ads, send me what you want. Because I don't want to think about it. Take all my information. I don't care. So, but if you don't know how your emotion, like what emotion you're having, how can you know how to fix it?
Absolutely.
Like, and this is where I do feel like the men and the women thing. I was learning that, and I'm going to get this wrong because I don't do this every day, but like there are like 5 basic emotions that maybe men could typically identify with, like the majority. And then women, we have like this insane chart with all the things like how we're feeling all the time, right? And so we each have a problem. Like women are probably doing too much, and men are like, I don't even know what I don't know, right? And so when we go into a company and we say, hey, these people are getting hurt, I sit down with the C-suite and I was like, so I don't know if you want to hear this, but you're the problem. And it comes from you and it comes from the top down. And I kind of gauge their reaction. I mean, I can be a little more subtle when I say that. And I was like, look, I'll come in here and fix it. But if you don't recognize that the problem starts with you, then I'd really rather not just throw a bunch of money in a barrel and burn it. Like, I want to know that these people want to work and they want to fix it, because they're all saying, well, I tell this guy to do it and this guy does it and this one doesn't. I was like, well, you're the boss. But it gets down to learning how to communicate and influence others and all of these things. And honestly, it's a perception. That's the craziest thing. Perception is reality, whether we want to believe it or not.
I know.
That's the hardest part in any workplace, especially with women. It's like this perception that, I don't know, we're going to have kids or we're going to go do this. And so we don't work as much. I mean, it's all that unconscious bias stuff. And I promise it gets deep. Like we could just dive deep and you don't have.
Oh my God, it goes so deep.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's like all those things. And I like, we can't change everything right away. I say like peel back that little layer. And the one thing that was unconscious to you becomes conscious, then focus on that and just kind of keep trying to see where something isn't working. And that's where I say like advocates. We all need advocates for us, and especially women in business, then we need men as our advocates. And I never had one before. And a couple years ago, I had one, and he was semi-retired, new to the industry, had never been a consultant, had always been in industry. And he just came in and, he was the older guy they all trusted. And he's like, Sarah, I don't know how to do what you do. So I'll be the buffer and just keep doing what you're doing. And in that year, we had 50% growth by literally people just stopped telling me like micromanaging me. And then they were like, oh, Carl, you did such a great job with Sarah. And I was laughing because what he did though, my value would never have been seen if he didn't buffer me. Because those conversations that were being had at the seat of the table when I wasn't there, like it was all like, well, Sarah's all in those women's group and Sarah does this. And I didn't know that those conversations were being had. And so he'd be like, well, I don't really think that's how it is, and was really just sticking up for me. And, the most valuable thing other than him doing that for me is that I remember like I'd get criticism, right? And then they'd tell me, and he was like, Sarah, do you respect that person that gave you that advice? And I was like, no. He's like, then why are you letting them pierce you like arrows And I was like, oh, you're so right. I'm like, because,
Really?
and I thought about it and I was like, well, because these are, accomplished people. They've owned their own companies. And he's just like, girl, you got to put your armor on. So after that, like my vision board, I have like 3 women in armor. I got like Wonder Woman, I got Lagatha, and I got Brianna Tarth because I'm a nerd, okay? And I would put that on my wall, and every day I was like, put up your armor, girl, because you're right. Do what you do, because they don't know how you work. They've never worked with this Sarah before, and they've certainly not worked with other females. So it's
Right.
like, to get back to that authenticity, I'm not sure I knew what it was, but he helped me figure that out and held me accountable to it, and that was huge.
Did he speak up for you then to all the other
Yeah.
people? Like she really did all the work. I'm just the front man, or
Um,
what did he do with that?
I don't think that he unnecessarily took credit for anything. He finally went to retire and was like, Sarah should have my position. So it wasn't like, I mean, he got measured by this. So he was like, Sarah, this is how I need you to present it. Like, I don't think I was actually necessarily doing his job, although I was, you know what I mean? It was like that whole, I don't know. I would never say that he took credit for what I did. He was just rewarded on how the group did, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Wow.
and you know what? I always joke because his wife is in like in an HR type role. And so I was like, good job. I was like, you taught him a lot of things. I appreciate that.
Have you changed a lot in terms of how your self-image, your sense of freedom to be who you are and all that since you were a young girl?
Oh,
You raised to be very different from who you are now?
I think I'm coming back to her, to be honest.
Oh,
Like, it's somewhere along the way, I think she got lost. And anyone who would have known me as a kid knew that I loved, playing outside and climbing trees and Lisa Frank rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. And like, that is just everything that I was. Glitter and sparkles and but
and
also
fun.
getting dirty. Yeah, fun, but also getting dirty and like
Yeah.
nerdy and sciencey and all that. And I think what it really hit me was when I was going to school, without other women around. And I never
Yeah.
really had a lot of girlfriends either, because I think I'm probably more masculine. And so now coming back, like, it's a balance of my masculine and feminine. I think I let the masculine take over too much because it was comfortable and it was easy.
Yeah.
And so my challenge now is to be more feminine. I was joking during COVID, I went and got my nails done with some of my girlfriends. Except I hate it because like I can't like scratch and pick off stickers, right? So now that we're kind of out of it, I was like, well, I want to create some art. So thanks, ladies. It's been fun. I enjoyed the girl time, but I need my fingers back. So I just tried it, you know what I mean? Like, be flexible like that. But I think honestly, it's the vulnerability. That's where I feel like the feminine side of me. And I would really encourage, I know a lot of women in business, right? We all go masculine, masculine, masculine. And like being able to balance that femininity is what makes you authentic, right? You need both
Yes.
sides.
Yes. And I mean, I'm going through such a transformation too of, I think by the way, that's another feminine thing, is that we don't stay in one box for 40 years and then retire. I mean, and if you do, golden, that's great. I'm glad that you're secure. I would love that kind of security, but I was never built for it.
Yeah.
I'm too curious, but I'm walking into this expansion of who I am, and also a sort of taking a back seat to something that's me, but bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that feels very feminine to me too, because like you, I learned to be very masculine in my approach and like go for the goal and push, push, push. And it's taken a long time to really understand the value of stepping back.
Yeah. Well, along that same line of the 40 years, so this same man who was this huge advocate for me finally retires. We go to lunch and he's just like, I don't know what to do with myself. He's like, for 40 years, I dressed the way I was supposed to. I drove the car I was supposed to. I had the glasses the way I was supposed to. I had the haircut the way I was supposed to. And he's like, now I'm sitting here like, who am I? And
Right.
I have to tell you, like, I got to give back everything he gave to me in this 2.5 hour lunch. And so, like, he had like the button up shirt that had kind of been pulled up, and peeking
Yeah.
out the bottom was a tattoo. Like, and it was a Nordic symbol. And it was like something I saw he got just before he retired. I'd actually seen it before. And I was like, I see you. I see you poking out, trying to like play. And I was like, I love and embrace every part of what you're doing. And I said, and I was just, telling him the story of how important he'd been in my career. And I was like, if I can give you anything back and like help you realize what makes you happy, I'm like, that's the ultimate goal. And like I say, it's
Wow.
maybe the gift was I could never spend 40 years, or I would like to help anyone to not spend that time thinking they have to be somebody else. Like,
I know. I talked with a client the other day who he said, well, I'm one person at work and I'm another person at home. And that sounds terrible to me. That just sounds, now I know there are certain behaviors we're going to do at work that we're not going to do at home and vice versa. But I'm still 100% me wherever I go.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I agree. And I hate that term work-life balance. I like whole life balance. And I think balance is actually my word for 2020. Authenticity, surprisingly, is this word's year. But I do think that, again, the same sort of, and maybe it's like letting little parts of you creep in here or there. But honestly, I think what it comes down to is like, why do you feel like you have to be someone else?
Well,
and usually when you start down that path, most people quit their job. So just fair warning, once you open the box,
they either quit or they start becoming so emphatically themselves that the people above them go, I don't like who you've become. You're a little too opinionated.
Yeah.
There's the door. But that's always a blessing if that's the way it goes, because there are people I've met who they do come out of their shell like you and they get promoted.
Yes.
So it can go either way. And I think it's just a matter of what you're sort of secretly wanting for your life.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's probably it. Like, I always just wanted to prove that I could make it to the top, right? Like, go ahead, maybe, I have a little too much competition in me, but it was like, okay, yeah, I can do it. And so even at this company, there was a man that had, 10, 15 more years experience with me. And we were like neck and neck. I was like, awesome, let's go. And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was playful, right? And so now, we both have left the company and we still keep in contact and like to try to work together. But it was fun to me because it was like, well, you're accomplished. I want to be accomplished too, right? And so, but here's what happened. I get to the top. I get there. They make more rungs.
No.
So they stretch the ladder out. No. I lost my mind. That's when I quit. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, I just wanted to be like top people in this company, prove I can do it, sell $1 million worth of work, like do all this. And I did it. And then they're like, oh, well, we're just going to create some more levels in between because we don't want people to feel weird that you've made these accomplishments. I'm like, it has nothing to do with
whoa. Who did they not want to have feel weird?
Everyone was already there at the table.
Oh my God. So wait, they gave you more rungs to go to get back up where you already were?
Yeah. So this guy that I was always competing with, they made him a senior. And so they gave me his old title. And I was like, guys, you can't keep.
No. So they didn't want the woman up there. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't say it.
I said it for you.
Yeah, I didn't say it. But yeah. Well,
I said it for you. You did not say it. It's official.
Yes.
For the record, I said it.
Yeah. As this goes viral.
What kind of advice would you give to a woman who is feeling all the social pressure, who doesn't have quite the moxie that you do, and who really does, who has that drive, like, I really want to excel, but I feel like I'm supposed to be appropriate, take a back seat, be invisible, all of those messages?
Yeah. In those instances, I think I would suggest that Well, first, make sure what you're doing is aligned with the way you get measured. And it may not be your job description, it may not be whatever. There's probably some hidden code rule or something somewhere that you will ultimately be measured against. And so if there's something in there you feel like you can have an impact on, that's where I say speak up, even though you're the quiet person at the meeting. Or maybe at the meeting you didn't feel like it was comfortable for you, so you approach your boss. But you need to build a relationship. Like you need an advocate, you need a mentor, and you need a coach. Those are usually very different people. They don't have to be inside your organization, but you need people you can have real conversations with and who give you the real lowdown of what's going on.
That's
and
great.
so just pick the thing that you really feel like you're most aligned with or you want the most help. And those people can change. You can have more than one, but make sure that like you respect the person giving you the advice, or that you trust them too. Like the worst thing could be sabotaged at work. But I think there's a place for you to start, but it's going to happen with that advocate, that person who recognizes your value and speaks up for you when you're not in the room. I've only had one in my entire career, and it was life-changing.
Ditto. I've only had one.
Wow.
And he was epic. And then he got me promoted, and then he wasn't my boss. So that was not good.
You're like, no.
And for your particular industry, what you're going to change the industry, it sounds like.
I'm hoping. I want to change how we see and value each other. Consulting is very much like a legal practice. You get paid by the hour. So as you become more efficient and more experienced, they simply put more work on your plate. That doesn't make sense. So I want to be rewarded for the job that I do, not how long it takes me. And I am not alone in this. No. If I had a job that would normally take me a week and I do it in 20 hours, well, then guess what? I'm getting off early every day, or I'm taking a long weekend because my mental health is more important. Not, awesome, you're a hard worker, here's more work. No, I'm over it. But well, I had to quit to start my own company so that I could start transaction or projects with people like this. I don't like to be transactional. I like to be relationship based. And honestly, I've been in business 10 months. I've had 15 different clients. They've all been referrals. Want to know why? Because I care about people. They're out there looking out for me, being advocates for me. And it's vice versa. I bring work to other consultants and other people. And it's just like, that's the community in which we live. We are all part of this whole community, this whole world. We are whole people. Like, stop being so, you know, what my sister always says is, she says, abundance is enough. Like, abundance is enough.
That's
why
beautiful.
Do I need to keep making more money? What do you need?
I think it's taken the place of meaning in our lives.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually hold you tight in bed at night, money. Yeah. It doesn't actually do it.
Oh yeah. And you know, it's funny because I've gone to all these regular business coaches, right? And they have great things to say and they were very helpful. When I came to do a marketing strategy in the beginning of this year, I was like really stuck because I recognize I want to do it differently. This is the way everyone's telling me to do it. And so I sat with it, I meditated, and at the end of the day, I said, my marketing strategy is anyone who brings me a new client, I'm going to give back to their charity of choice. So if it's someone I didn't know and you brought that to me, my marketing strategy, it's not a marketing strategy, it's because I want to give back to the community I live in, but sure. So every time I get a new client, I'm taking 5, 10, 15%. I'll grow over the years. I think I'm starting with 5. I haven't even been in business a year. And I'm going to give 5% of everything I make to the community. That's what you should do. That's right.
That's amazing.
And I didn't think it was so novel, but then I thought, like, yeah, I guess so. Because if you're so worried about money and you're so thinking, I just got to make more, then you're never going to think about giving back. And honestly, I remember I was like, okay, I want to give $5 at the grocery store when they ask. All of a sudden, I get a $5 coupon. I'm like, well, then I didn't really give the $5, did I? Because I just got it back. And so every time I've given, I have received back. And so, you know, if you're a religious person, like they say tithing, I don't care what you call it, but yeah, there is something about that, you know, trust in the universe, and you give and you receive. And that is where I feel like we all need to just embrace it a little bit and say, this is wrong. No, it's not about making money. It's about being happy and whole.
I could not find a better ending phrase than what you just said. So,
well, thank you. Anytime.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
So hang on with me when I end the Facebook, because we're doing a Facebook Live at the same time on this one. It's the first time I've done that. Great. So I didn't think to say this ahead of time, but hang in here with me even when we say goodbye.
Okay.
Okay. And, there are so many quotables from this interview that I'm going to have to go back through and do especially close editing and take little snippets out. Aww. So I will share those with you and with my group and with anybody on YouTube, actually. Wow, what a wonderful thing this is. I'm so glad that we talked.
Oh, thank you so much. I love what you're doing. We need to share these stories, and I'm just like honored and thrilled that we found each other and you asked me to do this, and I'm gonna do it for you someday. So we'll switch it.
Oh yes, I need you to interview me, or I need to do what I've been threatening to do, which is be a whole different character and just interview myself. Because why not?
We might need that art in the world, so maybe I don't want to rob everyone of that, because that is good. That is good.
I know, man. I'm just really digging it. Hi, my name's Patty. And I've never been out of the country in my life because my husband won't let me get out the house much because I got 1,200 children to take care of. And I love them all dearly, but God, I'm tired. I don't know. Please forgive me. If you're from the South, forgive me. I live in Cincinnati. I'm like a hop, a skip, and a jump from Kentucky. In fact, my father used to call this Cinceltucky because we just sit on top of each other. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's so off topic. Sarah, I love you dearly. And we'll do this again as you continue to change the world, because I want to follow your expansion.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad you're part of the community.
I'm part of the committee. The committee, did you say, or community?
I said community, but committee is way better, because that's exactly what this is. It's a committee of badasses. So we're good.
The badass committee. I'm down.
Yes. Okay, good.
Thank you, Sarah.
No problem. Bye.